Welcome, everyone. Today, I'd like to introduce you to David Brooks, a criminologist and a counselor. And David, I recognize that healthy boundaries keep the bad out and let the good in. So what would you say as a counselor to those that need to establish healthy boundaries in their life, or even how to do that?
You know, what I've noticed when it comes to boundaries is that everybody has a different level of boundary. There's some people that have like a boundary that's like a basketball court line. Some have like a tissue paper, like it's just pulled out. Some people even have a castle wall with a moat. It just kind of depends on where people are at. Some people, it's easy to detach from people. Some people become enmeshed very quickly, which then makes them codependent. When it comes to especially relationships, what I've noticed especially with women, is that a lot of times they will take, and matter of fact, I'm not gonna make it just women because I've noticed that men can do this also, is that when they get into a relationship, they meet that person. They start to they feel this, ooh, I'm excited. I want to meet them. I want to see them more. But what I've noticed with that is that when people have those boundaries right from the get-go, like as soon as they meet somebody, make them wait. And when you have that first long conversation at night, then say, I'll call you in a couple of days. Whenever you start to think about that relationship instead of feel, that's whenever you can create that distance to see so that you can watch the other person. Too many times they jump in too quickly, you know, almost like a frog. And I hate to use this analogy, but it's very hard to boil a frog because as soon as they touch the hot, they jump. But if you take a frog and you start it off with cold water, they can't adjust to the temperature. And so with a person, it's the same thing. A lot of times we get enmeshed in this relationship and we can't see. The environment is starting to change. We're starting to change. They're starting to change. But then we say we can change them. If they just do this, then they will be better. But a lot of times we don't. We don't even take that time and we just constantly keep running on a treadmill. And you get tired of that relationship way before. And then whenever you said, like you said, letting the bad stay out and the good stay in, a lot of times there is no line. And that line, it just jumps back and forth. And that's why they become so emotional, because they've been hurt, they've been traumatized, because people like to be close to you so that by the time you start to understand who they really are, it's almost like a bamboozle. It's like they show you their avatar at first, but the real person comes behind them. If you give them enough room and enough patience, you'll get to know the real person before you get too deeply involved. And so that's what I tell people about boundaries, especially in relationship. Give them time so that you can see the real person and don't get too enmeshed in the relationship and it's so difficult to get them out.
So it's really walking in a wisdom, a cognitive understanding,
Definitely.
a very intentional process rather than being overwhelmed by all these emotions of love, you know, and all those chemicals surging through your body. And do you think sometimes people don't put up boundaries because I'm so afraid I'm going to lose you? They want something so much that it is a fantasy of what they want rather than the reality of who that person really is.
People will take the right now person over the right person. A lot of times they meet people and they fulfill a certain thing. It's almost like a puzzle piece. It's like it connects well, but only on one side. And there's so many other facets of that person that will go unmet, but they're so happy to have that one aspect of their life, financially, power, whatever it is that they want to connect. It's almost like a pseudo environment, a pseudo identity to create a pseudo community. But it's a whole bunch of people doing that. And that's why I could not imagine dating in today's society, because so many people are only dating the avatar, that social media, over the internet person. But whenever they meet them, They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to create those boundaries. And that's why I tell people who really have gotten tired of the dating, so they go into this virtual dating system. It's just as bad in the virtual as it is in reality. But we still have to come back to the reality, and that's where we have to create those boundaries, is when we become face to face. Don't move too quick. Watch them for a second and then make the next step. Instead of just going 2 feet in, it's like a hot tub. Put 1 foot in and then sit down. Don't just jump in.
Great wisdom. Thank you, David. And thank you for joining us.